Again, welcome everyone to our budget meeting. Una vez más, la junta va a ser en inglés. Si ocupan interpretación, los dispositivos están en la parte de atrás. La junta va a ser en inglés. So just to go over our agenda, we're going to have a quick welcome by our city manager. We're going to do a budget overview by our finance department. Then we're going to have questions and answers. So that's really your opportunity to ask our directors. So we have representatives from each of the departments. So anytime you're driving around and you have a question about why does this street look like this, or what's happening in this new housing development, this is the opportunity for you to ask our directors. So we'll have a section right in the middle of the meeting for you to do that. And then at the end of the meeting, you'll see some posters all around. So we're going to have a little bit of an activity where we ask you to give us your feedback on all the different priorities that we have around. So I'll hand it, before we get into the agreements, I'll hand it over to our city manager.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here. Agradecemos que tengan tiempo de su día para estar con nosotros. So I'm not going to stick in English. So thank you very much for being here. Really, this is an opportunity for you to engage with us. Please ask us questions, give us your opinions, your thoughts. All of this is going to be compiled and goes to inform the budget as presented to the council, which will happen in a few months. So there'll be other opportunities for you to engage, obviously at the council is presenting the budget, but really any question, any comment, anything that we can answer, we'll provide you information. But we do have a lot of staff. I want to thank Kristen, Anna, Monica, and the staff and the team that's been putting this together. Thank you very much. Again, their day just extended, but this is very important. So please share your thoughts, share your opinions, ask us the questions, and we're here to try to respond to that information. So thank you.
Thank you, Renee. So we're going to have a lot of opportunity to share and to talk today, so it's important to go over some community agreements. So first of all, we ask that you respect your fellow community members, the space, that you're upholding safe language and respect for other people's opinions. And then we also just want to emphasize time and space, so being conscientious of the time and space we take up in this meeting, waiting for your turn to speak, and adhering to the agenda. So just if you have a lot of questions, just be mindful of other folks in the room, and so that we can have as many people ask their questions as possible. So before we get into all the fun facts and figures, just wanted to quickly show this image of our council districts. Does everybody know who their council member is? Raise your hand if you know who your council member is. It's a good mix. So it's important to know who your council member is for a lot of the things that are happening in the city. So it's good to look at your turnout and find your location, your home. And remember that name, because when we're thinking about the budget, or when we're thinking about the things that the city is responsible for, and what your council member is responsible for, you want to know that name, because that's the person you want to talk to. So now I'll hand it over to Selena, our finance director.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Selena Andrews, finance director. Thank you for being here and spending your evening with us. We really appreciate it. We think that this is going to be very informational for you and give you an opportunity to ask questions. So as you can see here, if you're looking at your handouts, you may be able to read this as well, but the city manager and city attorney are appointed by the city council, and the city manager hires and supervises all of the department heads listed here, the city clerk, the finance director, myself, the fire chief, public works, police chief, library and community services director, community development director, and the HR director. So today we're going to talk about what is a budget. The budget is a plan that outlines the revenue that it receives, it's expecting to receive within any given year. The city manager presents a proposed budget to the city council in May, and the city council reviews it, provides input. We go back and work on it a little bit more, come back in June, and it's adopted in June. And that budget is effective July 1 through June 30th each year. So this is going to give you some insight to our budget process. The budget development planning starts with instructions to departments in December. Then the departments submit their proposals. And those departments that get revenues, they also submit their revenue projections. There's a lot of work going on internally. The city manager then submits a proposed budget. So that's the budget that the city is recommending for that year. The proposed budget is then adopted by city council, and that becomes the adopted budget. Once that budget is adopted, city departments get to work on providing all of the services that they provide within all the different areas. Amendments to that budget can happen at any time, but we try to reserve the mid-year process for any major changes to the budget because that'll give us an idea of how the revenues are coming in, and then we can make adjustments as needed. At the end of the budget process, the year, there is some reporting each year. The city gets audited by an external auditor, and so we issue a lot of audits. There's a lot of work that goes into that, a lot of preparation, and all of the departments are included in that process. The city budget consists of a lot of funds, the general fund, Measure E and Measure G. We refer to those as general funds as well. So the three funds are considered general funds because they're not for a specific purpose, they're more of a general purpose. And then there's the other funds and capital improvement program. That is where the city determines what capital projects can be funded in a year. So there's a lot of capital projects that happen that the city coordinates. Some the city will work on themselves, otherwise they work with consultants on those projects.
Good evening, I'm Joseph, I'm acting assistant finance director. And the fiscal year 24-25 city expenditure budget is $259.8 million. The operating budget is a spending plan that consists of expenditures offset by revenues. The general fund, including measures D and G, total $173 million. Other funds amount to $68.5 million and include special revenue funds, internal services, enterprise operations, assessment and maintenance districts, grants, trust funds, and debt service. Lastly, the fiscal year 24-25 capital improvement program budget is programmed at $18.2 million, and the CIP budget is a spending plan for capital projects and large equipment purchases. Here's a closer look at the fiscal year 24-25 general funds operating budget, again totaling $173 million. Support departments, including administration, city council, the city attorney's office, finance, and human resources, total $48 million, or 28% of the total expenditure budget. Public safety, including police and fire, total $89.4 million, or 52%. Community development is at $7.3 million and 4%. Public works at $13.8 million and 8%. And library and community services at $14.6 million and also 8%. This table represents the fiscal year 24-25 revenue budget for the the general fund, Measure E and Measure G. Sales tax is the largest source of revenue and accounts for 91 million, or 52% of the total revenue budget. Property tax is second and accounts for 39.9 million, or 23%. Utility users tax, franchise fees, and transient occupancy tax total 24.9 million, or 15% combined. Charges for services total 5.1 million, or 3%, and all other revenue nets to 13.3 million, or 8% of the total revenue budget for the year. And next is Yesenia Nunez, our finance management analyst.
Good evening. I'll be going over the next two slides. This table represents the fiscal year 24-25 capital improvement plan for the City of Salinas. $18.2 million was appropriated to 43 different projects from a variety of funding sources, including general funds, Measure G, development impact fees, gas tax, Measure X, SB1, or Senate Bill 1, enterprise funds, and more. Some of the largest funding CIP programs are the Street Preventative Maintenance Program, which has a budget of $5.3 million, primarily funded from gas tax, Measure X, and SB1. Followed by the Airport Southside Taxi Lane Rehabilitation Program, where $3.28 million was allocated and is primarily funded from the Airport Enterprise Fund and aviation grants. The China Navigation Center Sprung Shelter has a budget of $1.1 million and is funded primarily from Measure G funds. The following table summarizes the grant budget for the City of Salinas for the fiscal year 24-25. The total grant budget is $81.6 million, and the largest grant received by various departments is the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. And the amount of unused funds carried over from prior year into the fiscal year 24-25 was a total of $42.2 million. The second largest grant allocated in the amount of $27 million is the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, and it's used for housing. Then we have public safety grants, which with a combined amount of $7.3 million, of which 5.5 went to police and 1.8 went to fire. The remaining $5 million went to public works, community development, and recreation and library. And I will open it for questions.
Thank you. That was your budget team, most of your budget team in the City of Salinas.
Thank you, budget team. So now is the fun part of the meeting. If I can ask all the directors to come up to the front, maybe stand on the wings here, and our department representatives. So this is your opportunity to ask questions about community development, about parks and rec, about public works, about fire, about police.
Hi. Okay, so I'm looking at the budget and grants. I just would like to know what American Rescue Plan is. It's kind of vague, and it says various departments. So what is that?
So that was funding that municipalities and other agencies received during COVID. So that's to help cities continue their operations, make up any revenue shortfalls that they have had. But that's something that a lot of agencies, a lot of organizations received. And it's various departments because departments, at the time when it was received, it was decided to work on capital projects. So a lot of that money is allocated to various capital projects in various departments.
Thank you. Is this amount that's listed, is that the balance, or is this the total amount that you received from the city?
So the total amount that we received was about $51 million. And we've expended quite a bit. So that was the balance. That's what we have not expended.
So this is the balance that's listed on?
Correct.
Thank you.
But it's encumbered, right? Salinas, so it's
encumbered.
allocated somewhere. We're gonna spend it by 2026.
December 2026, yes.
This is a question for Public Works, perhaps. It reads in here in the Capital Improvement Plan, number 13. There are $3 million for the taxi lane rehabilitation and for the street preventive maintenance program, $5 million. Seems to me automobiles utilize more the streets than the airplanes that arrive in Salinas. Something wrong with my reading or what's going on in here? Why would the taxi lane rehabilitation get that much money instead of the streets that are in catastrophe? Thank you.
Sidewalk and drainage repairs, most of that is our maintenance crews that are going out and repairing sidewalks and removing trees and replanting trees and repairing the sidewalk. Also, there's storm drain issues in the city that have to be addressed, like catch basins and stuff.
That's not what he's asking. He's asking about the one above it, the airport south side taxi lane rehabilitation.
Yeah, so why is the airport salvage tax lane?
So the airport is the enterprise fund. That does not affect the general fund. The enterprise airport has to maintain their taxiways and their runways. And most of that money actually comes from federal and state grants. And the money that you see here is match money so that we can get the work done at the airport. In terms of street preventive maintenance, we do street repairs, we do crack fill, pothole fills, we do pavebacks where we replace sidewalks. We have to do pavement in there, and that's part of the street maintenance. We stripe streets. We actually maintain the street lights. We maintain the sidewalks. We maintain the signs and the traffic signals. And all that is clumped into that one item.
It takes about $2 million to repair a paved street, doesn't it?
Yeah. This is only, yes. And again, because that's how much money we're allocating. We have gas tax money that comes in, and that's what we use towards streets and sidewalks.
So you have no money.
We have a little bit, and we try to use that as much as we can.
So I have a question over here.
En Spanish.
As you know, the streets are a disaster.
Yeah.
A nosotros nos interesa el deporte, la juventud. Queremos saber si hay algún presupuesto para las canchas de fútbol.
So the question is, we have to think about our youth, and we're interested in knowing if there's a budget para el fútbol, for the soccer fields. Dice lo de la Constitución. So if there's a budget or funding allocated for the soccer complex.
So the soccer complex, if I can, right, it's run through not run through the city, so it's run through a 501c3, and they're responsible for the operations and management of that complex.
There is some, there was an allocation in the prior year, and some of that carries over an allocation from the city, but it isn't our project, but the city's project.
Hola, buenas tardes. Yo tengo dos preguntas. Una de ellas es cuando mencionan que hay millones de ERP. Nos gustaría saber cuáles son los principales programas a los que están enfocándose.
¿Podemos contestar esa primera?
Claro que sí.
So we're asking about ARPA funding, and maybe if you could list some of the big projects that we're working on with that.
Good evening, Kristen Lundquist, Library and Community Services Director, and I can speak to how the funds from ARPA has supported our parks and recreation. We have funding close to $2 million that went into our playgrounds, from overall repairs to the servicing materials to the installation Williams Ranch. We also received some funding to help support the construction of our new Hebron Family Center, to replace a building that was very old and had lots of issues and was demoed probably 2 years ago. We also had some funding that went in to support the Firehouse Recreation Center as well. So we're really looking forward to finalizing all of those projects.
Yeah, as Public Works, we had several different items in ARPA funding. We had $6 million for streets, we had $6 million for sidewalks, and then we had like $12 million for sewer and stormwater issues. And we did 2 rounds of sidewalk repairs that we just finished up. The streets, we paved several miles of streets with that money. And then sanitary sewer, we're actually doing some spot repairs right now and finishing that project up in Jordan.
For your fire department, we received about $3 million in funding and about a $12 million need in deferred maintenance at all our fire stations, plumbing, roof, electrical, things like that. So our fire station 1 on Alisal is being remodeled, updating a lot of the systems in that older facility. Approximately $3 million of ARPA funding for that project.
Ok, la pregunta número 2 es, ¿corremos algún riesgo como comunidad de perder estos fondos con la nueva administración?
The second question is, do we run the risk of losing any of these funds with the new administration?
The short answer to the question is no. That money has already been received, obligated, and some of it's already been spent. So that's prior administration. So future grants, we don't know what's going to happen to those. At least at this point, that money is already fully committed. The city received.
Hello. I just want to know how much of the budget will be allocated to the public art and community events.
So public art is funded through the municipal art fund, and it's a percentage, 1% of eligible construction projects across the city that are city-funded projects. In addition to that, the city council also allocated $100,000 annually, has made a commitment to put that towards public art, event grants, and things like that.
Buenas noches. Yo quisiera saber si hay algún presupuesto para la seguridad de la ciudad de Salinas, para las calles, como por ejemplo en las calles donde andan, pues no sabemos, ¿verdad?, si jóvenes o no sé qué andan haciendo, las personas que andan haciendo donas en las calles, pues de donde estamos viviendo, familias con niños, que es una gran preocupación tan grande que por las mismas, las casas que están allí en las esquinas, donde llegan estas personas a hacer sus donas, es un peligro bien grande. Hay escuelas, hay niños a veces que están saliendo.
¿Puedo interrumpir para traducir un poquito? So her question is about safety, so we're wondering what we're doing in terms of public safety for our streets and also for what goes on with the car shows. And just making sure, because there's obviously people around, and what we're doing to keep the community safe.
It's a sideshow, not a car show. Not a car show, just FYI.
Okay, thank you. Side shows, not car shows. So a couple of things that we're doing. We got to look at engineering, education, and enforcement by working with other city departments of how we can provide information to our social media platform for education on pedestrian safety, speeding, etc. And also we're being intentional when we have complaints or concerns about speeding vehicles in particular neighborhoods, Williams, Alisal, Verona, you name it. As far as the site shows, we're putting together some resources to the district attorney and other regional resources and police departments to sort of create a team so we can sort of get in front of these type of situations such as site shows and how to deal with them. By working with the district attorney about towing vehicles or fines and making arrests or trying to prevent it, if not mitigate it, but hopefully try to avoid it at all possible. So we're looking in 3 different facets of how we deal with that when we hear about those site shows. And of course, capacity, resources, personnel, how do we deal with it? Oftentimes, we have to look at who's available during that specific evening. If we do have a site show or individuals that are congregating in certain neighborhoods or shopping centers or business districts. But we are going to start looking at a plan when these things do come up and how we deal with it.
Sí, buenas tardes. Yo nomás le quiero hacer unas preguntas al jefe de la policía, ¿verdad? Si fuera posible que pudiera trabajar con la comunidad, unidos, a ver cómo podemos controlar todo eso. Porque donde yo vivo también es desde todas las noches de que hacen las donas. Y no he visto un control nada, ni hemos visto que se baje eso de esos jóvenes que andan haciendo todo eso. A mí me gustaría que trabajáramos en unión con la comunidad para saber lo que es, qué es lo que están haciendo.
This is also a question for the chief of police regarding the same matter. So I would like to know how we can work together with the chief of police as a community, because my neighborhood, we experience the same slideshow. And we want to make sure that we are working in collaboration with the police department to make sure that we are enforcing. How can we work with you?
Thank you for the great question, and absolutely, look, the police department is an equal partner. We want to work with the community and engage personally to really truly understand where these concerns are happening. So I don't know where she went, but I will talk to you, or after I'm done answering this question, I'll get your information and work closely with you or your neighborhood association or your district or your council member to really get that information and work closely with you and all of the entire community, because all of us are here for the same goals, right? Safety, vibrancy, and a more prosperous community, and the only way we do that is by working together. So I will try and come and find you if somebody can and get her phone number, and we'll connect after the meeting. Thank you.
Hola, buenas noches. Mi pregunta es, ¿ustedes creen que este año se puede haber presupuesto para las luces en Boronda, donde está completamente oscuro, y ahí es a donde realmente suceden muchos accidentes y sobre todo ahí estamos donde se hacen todos los arrancones, todas las donas? ¿Por qué? Porque realmente está súper oscuro y la verdad es que está ocasionando muchos problemas, porque inclusive ya no se ve ni siquiera donde se termina una línea de la otra. Ya estamos a veces manejando hasta en el otro carril, entonces pues ya pasamos un año y esperamos que este año sí haya alumbrado. Gracias.
I would also like to know if there's any projects in the pipeline to work to address the street lighting issues on Boronda. A lot of these car slideshows are also happening there, and we think it's because the lack of appropriate street lighting. That's also creating issues even when we're driving. It's hard to see the line in between the different lanes. So I just want to know, because I feel that this is an important factor that is adding to the lack of safety on Boronda. Is there any project in the pipeline?
So from what I understand, it was a lighting on Boronda question. We do have some issues throughout the city with stolen wire, which affects different areas of the city and different streets. And one of the streets that we know of, the copper wire was stolen, and that actually feeds some of Boronda Road, and that's why we see those dark subsections in Boronda Road. We are working through those. We have a list of about 15 locations right now where the wire is missing, and we're going through there and pulling new wires in there and hopefully avoiding those locations.
Hi, I was wondering how does the public participate in the setting of the budgetary priorities? And how does the public have oversight over whether or not the investments are working for the public? I'm noticing that the largest source of revenue at 91 million is from sales tax, so that's predominantly from low-income residents of Salinas. How do you ensure that low-income residents of Salinas are served by this budget, and how do they have a voice in letting you know that?
Great question, Rosa. So part of it is this meeting, right? And we also have an annual budget survey. So once those surveys are completed, all that data goes to the different directors, and the idea is for them to really look at all those figures and for this survey, we have a couple open-ended questions, so it's really going into what are those key items that community members are asking about. So they each look at that, and the idea is for those items to then be reflective of each department's budget. So we also we're not fully done with the presentation, so another part of this is going into each of the different categories. They correspond with the various departments, and really looking at all those different buckets from each of the departments and then giving us your individual feedback. So it's kind of like a bonus to the survey. So we also take all that information and share it back with our directors. And then we introduced a new item this year to our survey, which is the question of, which is kind of going into more of participatory budgeting and looking at if you had more control over the budget, if you had the money, how would you spend it? And that's a question that we have on the survey. And this is kind of imagining for the future. And that's the last question that we had on the survey, which is if you had $100,000, how would you use it? So we're also taking all that feedback and collecting that, and the idea is to filter that down to eventually get into a budgeting process that's more aligned with what you're saying, right? That it's where we have more community involvement at that level.
There will also be a budget hearing process on May 20th. You'll have an opportunity to come to that council meeting and provide your input, and then speak to your council members and provide your input to them. So you will have opportunities along the way. We are going to show you the budget calendar. There's also going to be other opportunities for you to attend a council meeting and provide your input, whether it's a committee meeting or a finance commission. So you do have opportunities, and we'll continue to have more opportunities outside of what was just mentioned by Monica.
And one last thing, I think the last part that you mentioned was how do we share it back, right? How do we share back the process? And I think that's a great example of why it's so important that you're here today and that you stay involved, right? So you're telling us, we want you to fix the roads, or we want you to invest in X. So throughout the year, part of your task is to make sure that we're doing that. So it's in coming to our council meetings and doing public comment and saying, hey, remember at the budget meeting in February you said X? Well, we're just here to remind you that that's still a priority. So it's really, we have a responsibility as city staff and as civil servants, but you as community members also have to help us stay on track. So part of your job is to make sure that we're doing ours.
Hi, everyone. Yolanda Hayes here. As somebody likes to really say my name. Anyway, I'd like to know in regards to the Chinatown Navigation Center Spring Shelter, what services will you be providing in that shelter, and what is it for? I mean, I know it's for the unhoused, but I'd like to know what services you will be providing for that. Also, we had a meeting over a year ago at Steinbach Elementary School in regards to the unhoused, and all of the hotels that the City of Salinas was purchasing were less than 50% full. Has there been any progress on those shelters, and are they now full? Are they being managed? Seems like a lot of properties that we purchased were empty because they had to go through certain renovations, and you know, it's been a while now that we received a lot of money, and I'd really like to know where that money is going. The last thing is, I live back down in the creek. The creek is full of sand. That's not a good thing to have in one of our creeks, especially one of the main water sources to Salinas. Yet nobody's doing anything about that. There's still homeless people there, or I should say unhoused people there, and they're not moving. They're making it their permanent home, and as the weather gets better, they're going to continue to come. And I really would like to know, what are you going to do to protect that conservation area. It was a gift from the Sherwood family to the to the county of Monterey. Monterey passed it down to Salinas. So I'd really like to know what's going on with Gavel Creek, please, and the house and the spring shelter. Good name.
So excellent questions. I'm Grant Leonard with the Community Development Department. The Sprung Navigation Center in Chinatown is one aspect of the city's homeless outreach and prevention and recovery programs, along with the Share Center, which is operated by the county, and our Salinas outreach team, which is where we have staff actually go out and work with the homeless and provide services, provide contacts and services, with the hopes of getting them to transition from homelessness back to in-house. So the specific services at Sprung, I can't speak to directly, but I know they relate to homeless services and helping people transition from homelessness. The second part of the question about properties the city had purchased. The city had been part of the Home Key project, which was funded by the state, which involved purchasing 3 different hotels across the city to be used for transitional housing. Those are in various states of work. One project in particular, which you might have seen in the paper, was the Good Idea. The nonprofit that had been selected to run that ended up going through bankruptcy, and that's been a very complicated process to sort out. And they're still in the middle of that receivership process. And then for City Creek.
So before I just add on the 3 Home Key projects, one of them, so the city's working with the county and partners to get those activated. They're not yet activated. One is Fairview site is almost there. Another site on John Street that's under renovation right now. And the third one, that's the one that we still have to activate. So you are correct. Those are not open yet, but we're really close on one. As far as the going into Galvin and some of our creeks, as you know, part of the meeting, we're working with the land trust. We're putting together a procedure so when we go in, we don't damage the creeks, and then we can, use our processes to relocate and move the housing and homeless. So we're still working on that, but we're developing our protocols and procedures. So when we're in there, we're doing the overshoot so we don't damage our natural environment, but we're also getting the house down. It's a delicate balance because some folks want us to do it immediately, but we have to be caretakers of our natural environment. So it's not something that we can just go in and do whenever we think we should do it. So, good questions.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Elizabeth Reyes y trabajo ahorita trabajo en el Larro Pi, pero trabajé casi 20 años en la Salinas High School, trabajando con muchos adolescentes. Esta pregunta es para el Departamento de Policía o el manejador de esta ciudad. Yo tengo entendido que en el pasado 14 ciudades de California recibieron millones de dólares para infraestructura o para safety o para todos los problemas que tienen las ciudades. Y uno de los problemas que tenemos en Salinas es que no tenemos suficientes policías. No sé si cuál será la razón o porque nadie califica o nadie le está aplicando. Son muy pocos policías para cuidar nuestra ciudad. Y en cuanto a infraestructura necesitamos muchas cosas que arreglar. Quisiera saber, porque necesitamos mucha infraestructura, no tenemos suficientes árboles para tanta población de gente. Los árboles nos proveen oxígeno, que nos provee salud. Las calles están muy desveladas, no hay luces, están muy oscuras y eso ocasiona que haya mucho crimen. También necesitamos que se marquen el número de las casas abajo de la banqueta, porque cuando van a los paramédicos o los bomberos ha de ser para ellos muy difícil encontrar la dirección, porque no se ven cuando se trata de salvar una vida de una persona. Muchas gracias.
Good evening, my name is Elizabeth, for many years I worked for school sign. I'm here because I have several different concerns. The first one is around public safety. I understand there's a lot of vacancies within our police department. We need a lot of officers. I don't think we have enough officers to take care of our police safety. So that is the first one. I'll go by safety. One at a time, okay.
Thank you. Yes, so public safety is my number one priority as well as the cities. We need to be able to provide those core services, and I will tell you, it is very challenging. It's not just here in Salinas, in the county or the region or the state or even national recruiting. It's been very difficult for a lot of municipalities, both at the state and federal level, with how we hire police officers. The Salinas Police Department and your recruiting team is doing an outstanding job. We have 8 police recruits at the police academy, and we're trying to hire as many as we can to make sure that the police department is here to provide you those core services while, again, building community engagement and dealing with other drug safety issues and concerns, whether it's sideshows, whether it's prostitution or fatalities or other things like that. So it is a challenge, but we are doing our very best to try to recruit the best qualified candidates to work here at the Salinas Police Department. Thank you for that concern, and we are working and moving forward to hopefully build this organization. Thank you.
The second thing she talked about was the need for more trees. They provide oxygen, they're good for the environment and our health. Are we planting more trees in our city?
Hello, buenas tardes. Adriana Robles, your city engineer. With regards to trees, we actually received a grant from CAL FIRE. We will be planting 300 trees as part of that grant.
And then the other thing she mentioned is how important it is for the house numbers to be painted on the sidewalk. She thinks it's probably really hard and difficult for paramedics, fire to find an address, especially when you are, trying to save someone's life. Is that something that helps fire, police identify a property? Like if the numbers are painted on the sidewalk or the side of the sidewalk?
That certainly helps. Also having your house numbers on your house is also very helpful. We do have very detailed books in our fire engines that are very, very precise in where we find addresses. Certainly it goes a long way to have that address included. We don't currently have a program that paints them on the sidewalks.
I was just curious if you had a line item or was able to extract out of the budget, how much money goes to sweeps? How much goes to the garbage? How much goes to Smith and Enright? How much goes to the police, public works? Have you been able to extract that data from the budget?
So we don't have the data today, but we are going to be setting up a workshop with the council, and we're going to discuss it. So at that point, we'll have all that information to the extent we can get it. So a lot of this, we're reaching almost have to do some of that stuff, but we're going to do a monetize and see how much we're spending. Good question.
Mi nombre es Leo Ramírez, resido en Salinas desde no sé cuántos años, 50 años. La pregunta es para el jefe de policía, si el presupuesto es suficiente o cuál es la razón de que no tengan más o no tienen candidatos para oficiales. Y la otra parte es de que yo sé que se ha automatizado mucho el sistema, pero lamentablemente mi comunidad no está familiarizado con esto y tenemos muchos problemas cuando queremos algo de la policía y algo que no me gustaría decir, pero las personas que están enfrente atendiendo siempre están estresadas o no quieren trabajar o algo les pasa. Y yo sé que es normal, yo trabajé muchos años, pero debe uno controlar su actitud porque esa es su posición.
Okay, so this question is for Police Chief. Is the budget that you have enough? Why is it that we don't have more police or are we not getting good candidates? Again, why do we not have more officers?
Great question. So the budget is in place and allocated for 157 police officers. We currently have 139. Out of that 139, 8 of them are in the police academy where they're in the training phase to ultimately be released to be a solo lead officer. When they're a solo lead officer by themselves, then we count them in the overall structure of that 131. So, to your question about candidates and how they're qualified or screened, I mean, we do radio advertisement. We're doing a lot of things with KION, with KDON. We attend every festival imaginable as we start to move forward here in spring and in summertime. You're going to see a lot of us at job fairs at Markham College, Salinas Air Show, the Gainesville Road, you name it. So we're doing everything we can. But like I mentioned earlier, there's a national shortage in civil service work, and not just in police, but fire and everywhere else. So we, the Salinas Police Department, is struggling to hire qualified candidates, just like Marina, Seaside, San Jose, Santa Clara County, and everywhere else. So I think where we're at now, and how we want to grow, we have a plan on the short term and long term. But like I said earlier, we want to make sure that we hire the best qualified, fit police officers that will resonate with the community here that they serve. So yes, there's a shortage, but we're working on it.
And then the next thing he mentioned was, this is, something he wished he didn't have to, but, the staff at the front aren't always the friendliest. I know there's stress, we're all busy, but the customer service needs to improve. And then I know that, we're using technology and that we're automating our systems, but for our community, it's important that we have more options.
Sorry that there is some sentiment that our staff is not friendly, but my expectation as a police chief that we provide a high degree of customer service, that we are professional with everybody we do, all facets of what we do. So that's something that I will absolutely take and consider and talk to my staff about. It's important that we are professional, we treat everybody with respect, regardless of what platform that is, whether that's a phone call, that's an in-person contact, whether it's an enforcement contact or not. So, to your question about technology innovation and how we're messaging it, I think that's what I heard correctly.
Yes, so we're automating our systems, right? We have to do a lot of things online, but for our community, we need to, have direct contact with the public and have other options because technology might not be available for us to know how to work it.
Yeah, I mean, we have our traditional 911 system. We have online reporting. I think I will look at that and see how we can make sure that it is translated in Spanish or any other language, that it's compliant with ADA rules and regulations. I am in the process of updating our website, so that's something that I'll consider, how we can automate things and make it easy for the general public, whether that's messaging through social media, through press releases or other avenues to making sure that people have access to the police department in the best way they can to get what they need.
First, this isn't my question, but I just wanted to ask, why isn't there a program like ROTC in high schools, but for police departments? I just wondered why you don't pull from within the community and start training young people when they're young. But that's not my question. My question is, I think that Salinas does a really good job of having programs for kids that are 13 and under. But when it comes to kids who are 13 to 18, there's really nothing. Let's say 12 and under, 13 to 18, there's really nothing. I have a grandson who's 16, and if it wasn't for me being able to drive him places and have the money to do things with him, he wouldn't be doing anything. And so I was frustrated because you had for a while a lot of kids that were riding around on bikes, but instead of finding ways to incorporate them into programs where they could do something that they were interested in, basically you took away their bikes and arrested them, and I just think that's very sad. If you have kids that are that involved or that interested in something, what are we doing to involve them? I don't think Salinas is doing a good job with teenagers.
I want to share an opportunity for those teens. So Library and Community Services offers a Saturday night teen program that runs from 6 to 10 p.m. every single Saturday. And it's really really a space for that age group only. Staff's there, they get dinner, they can do skateboarding, they can do arts and crafts, they get dinner. I mean, it's really a place for them to socialize on Saturday nights. And we have it at 2 sites, so the Red Box Recreation Center and the Rec Center here on Lincoln, every Saturday from 6 to 10 p.m.
If I can also add, great comment, and I know it was a question, but thank you. I think it's important that as civil service leaders in the department heads, that we try and find avenues, opportunities, resources for our youth. There's no question there's a need for that, whether we're a small city, large city, or medium-sized city. I can tell you what we at the police department do. We don't have an ROTC program, but we have a cadet youth program that I think as early as they can start as early as 14 years old. And we learn about, it's not so much about the police department, but our professional staff. They learn about leadership skills, opportunities, how to build a resume, right? How to establish a social network, how to become a mentee when there's mentors out there available to help you. Whether it's in policing, engineering, healthcare, hospitality, you name it. So we allow this opportunity to have, and we have, I think, 22 youth that are currently in this program. And from this program, we also use to allow them to understand the dynamics and the infrastructure of what it takes to be a police officer, or a dispatcher, or a forensic specialist. And so this is an opportunity where youth get to come in. We meet, I think, every other Tuesday. We provide them with field trips. We take them out to different perspectives and avenues where they can learn about how it is to be a good young adult, right? What are the responsibilities and things that they can learn? So it's on our website at Salinas.com, and you can look at our youth cadet program from there. If you want any information, you can ask me or one of my assistants that will get you that information.
And then I want to add, because I feel like there are so many good programs that the city offers for teens and kids. So I want to encourage all of you to pull your phones out and follow on Facebook or Instagram at Salinas Neighborhoods, at Salinas Parks and Recreation, and you'll find tons of programs for our youth. We're actually taking registration for a program now specifically for teens that helps them build a resume, get ready for the workforce. So please follow us. There's a lot of opportunities out there.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es María Carmen Parra. Yo tengo una pregunta a uno de las áreas de inversión aquí en el presupuesto de nuestra ciudad de Salinas. ¿Qué posibilidades, oportunidades hay que tengamos inversión en la prevención, en construcción del desarrollo del niño de la temprana edad, en cuestión a edificios o centros por parte de nuestra ciudad de Salinas, para todas estas familias que necesitamos el cuidado que se pueda infantil?
So Maria's question is about early childhood development opportunities and structures. And we actually have one building that was just recently completed that we collaborated with the El Salvador District on. No, Ana, you have more insight on
the Backmore Child Development Project. So the city funded through CDBG portion of that project. And right, the city, I think the role of the city is to enhance those services, because that role is really of school districts and the county. We can support through programs that are libraries, programs that are recreation centers. So that's the way the city, I think, can support.
Yeah, and so just to add, it's a little tricky because education is not necessarily our lane, but there's also more that we're looking into in terms of our small business support with child care centers and helping child care providers, so in that area. So it's really more for us to increase collaboration with the child care providers and with the school districts. Because it's not necessarily on our task list. Feel free, staff, raise your hand if you're City of Salinas staff. We have a lot of staff, so feel free to, they're all very friendly, I promise. You can go up to them and ask your questions. But we have a couple more things to go over. So this is kind of referencing what Rosa asked earlier about how you stay engaged and how you stay a part of this process. So this is, if you have your phone, if you want to, and you don't have the slides, you want to take a picture of this. So this is our budget calendar. If you haven't completed the survey, we'll be closing the survey this Friday. And then we have the various meetings through June. So make sure that you take a picture so that you can participate and attend all these different council meetings. And you can stay more informed by going on our website. And for every meeting, there are several materials that get attached. So if you want to read up on our budget and get a little bit more insight on all these different questions that you all asked and on the information that our director shared, all that information is posted on our website. So that's where you can find it. And now we want to get into that activity. So if you can see, there are posters all around the room, and you have little sticky notes and pens at your tables. So the idea is for you to go around, kind of like you're at an art gallery, and give us your feedback in terms of all these different areas. And if you haven't done the survey, we used our guiding principles. So these are all the different areas that we're covering. So we want to know what your priorities, what your ideas are for each of these areas. So just write them on a little sticky note, and we have staff all around the room that can help you. If you have any questions, they can help. So that's the first activity we want to do. And then the last activity, all the way at the back, in the back corner there, we narrowed down, we asked, what would you do with $100,000? So we narrowed it down to 16 options, I believe. So you're going to go ahead and pick 3 options. And we will have staff in the back with little stickers, so you'll be able to vote for your 3 options of what you would do with $100,000. So are we good? Are we ready to do the activity? So thank you again. And Renee, did you want to close us out?
Thank you, gracias a todos. I know you are not accounting for everything. If you want to, I will recommend, if you want to reach out to my office and sit down with me and talk about the budget and hear your thoughts and more questions come up, please do not hesitate to reach out. Right? When you have time, we can make it work, right? And again, I just want to thank everybody. Please give us your input and have a great evening and we'll